So does anybody know what an ADMX is, or an ADMX central store? Anybody read the book?
The files with settings like XML files for Active Directory management.
Yep. Specifically group policies.
Yeah.
That's what the ADMX files are. So
I'm
let's take a look at where they are before we start making changes. Because they're physically just, they're XML files and they're separated into implementation and language. So that you only have to write the XML file that has the group policy once. And if we need it in Croatian or Russian or French or whatever, you just change the language file and then that modifies the XML file. So that was a good thinking on their part. Let's see, what's our password? Oh yeah. Good thinking on Microsoft's part. So that makes it easier for people like Google, because Windows is not going to have a Google Chrome group policy file. So we're going to find Google Chrome group policy file. What? My phone is talking to me. Sorry, I don't know why it's doing that. There's an event alert apparently at 8:27. Okay, let's turn you off something. All right, so let's take a look, because that's the first part of activity 7-4. And I'm going to get rid of this because I rarely use it. All right, let's dive down to File Explorer. There we go. File Explorer and this PC and our C drive. There it is. And Windows. Windows is where the Windows operating system is stored. And we want to go down to policy definitions. If we look in policy definitions, where are they? There they are, right in front of me. These are the built-in Windows policy definitions. And we have the language file for US. There's language files for all kinds of others, but since I'm in the US, these are the ones that I want. So these are the actual files that are behind all the group policies that we've been working on. And these can be updated with Windows updates. Typically, the most up-to-date policy files are on the latest client. So if I wanted these to actually really be up-to-date, I'd copy them from my Windows 11 and replace these. That will give you the up-to-date stuff. I'm not going to do that right now. We are going to take this and put it into what's called a central, what is it called? Central ADMX Central Store. Why do we do that? We only have one server. Well, if we had two servers and we had a central storage area, both servers will get the policies from the same place, which is what I have set up in the back of the room. Because as we learned, how many servers do we need as a minimum? 2. We just aren't doing it here because it takes a buttload of room. So we're going to copy the folder, Control-C for copy. Then we're going to dive down deeply into stuff. Sys volume, system volume. Well, that makes sense, right? We're going down to, oh, there's another system volume. Well, lots of system volumes. Here's our domain.local. This is actually a shortcut taking us to my domain.local. And look at here, policies. And we are going to paste it right in here. And of course, we are an administrator, so we can paste it in there. There it goes. So when you're done with this, this is what it should look like. And these are some of the policies that we've been working on. Every time you create a new policy and group policy management, you get a new folder full of stuff that gets automatically retrieved by the clients because they're looking for this particular, well, are they looking for this? No, they're looking for the share where these things are set at. So if we look at this over the network, if I look at / server 1, there, sysvol. And there's my domain.local, and there's policies. So when computers start up and at intervals, they look in here and say, oh, has anything changed? This is here so that this can be shared amongst the servers because policies are replicated between however many domain controllers you have. So what does replication mean?
copying between them to have copies.
Mirrored.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're replicated and mirrored. They're exactly the same on. If you have 80 servers, you have 2 servers. These are automatically, they call it replication, but it really is mirroring. So they're all the same. If I make a change here, it's automatically replicated to everybody else because my change was last. Mine's the most current. So it overrides anybody else's, which is typically how replication works. That's just, they call it replication. All right, well, let's look at what's inside one of these files. Let's see, we can open this up with Notepad because it is just a text file. So let's open with, as soon as it comes up and gives me a choice, try and open this PC there, Notepad. And there it is. It's a bunch of XML, which is a standard, not a database format, but it's an exchange format for database type information. So JSON is the most popular one because it's so much easier to use than XML. XML is still around. It was one of the, I think it came into being before JSON. So if you have just a comma delimited text file, you only have a certain amount of ways to organize your information. Like you can't hardly organize it at all. With XML and JSON, you can organize it into a database type format. So we know that policy namespace is stored between these two, which just means that's where they are, I guess. And then there's categories, and there's various different little spots where things are stored and notated. You could write your own. Well, I've never written, I guess I wrote one a long time ago, back when it was simpler. I can't remember what I did. So in order for this to work, which we're done at this point, we need to download Google's. And there's some for Adobe, and there's some for all kinds of people have policy templates so you can manage their software from a Windows domain. It's not uncommon to have it. One of the most common ones is Google Chrome. So you can manage Google Chrome from your server and say, here is I think the only thing I have is the homepage. I think I have the homepage set, and I have it set to delete all the temporary files once it's done. I think that's all I've got in there. So I'm going to go into, Edge. The major purpose of Edge, I think, is still to download Google Chrome, but it used to be what you would call Internet Explorer. What's Internet Explorer used for? Download Google Chrome. All right. Anyway, this isn't as bad as Internet Explorer got. Although I'm thinking it is. Hearing again. Okay, so decided to do this. Download it on our local computer. Oh, not working. Oh, try it again. I copied and pasted it. And it's still not working. Oh, it already downloaded. It is working. All right, so we have the group policy file several times. So here it is. So what Nick did is, and it works. Yeah, I know we had an unplanned problem. We can do this. Unless I don't have mine turned on. I don't have mine turned on. And I have that turned on. It says enable clip. Oh, I didn't know clipboard would file transfer. Yeah, that's something new. Or I didn't try it before. Nope. There we go. Drag and drop the data to the guest. And it should show up here any moment. There we go. Okay. So we do want to extract this because inside there is all of our goodies. So I'm going to right click and extract all. And we will have momentarily the policy templates. Working on it, working on it, working on it. Okay, so we have two parts to it. Here's our ADMX. ADM is an older version. I'm not sure what's in examples. I've never looked at it. I guess examples of settings, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, this is the part that we want. We want these two guys, right? Plus, we want this guy. Because this folder is underneath in the same order, if we use our control button, click, 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 we can copy and paste these right into the other folders because this is the same folder structure that we had earlier. So if we go down to our local disk, down to our Windows, down to sysvol, all that way that we just went, where's our sysvol? There he is. Oops. And our next sysvol, and our domain.local, and our policies, and our policy definitions, the folder structure is exactly the same. Except I think it's going to give a static about being an administrator. And there we go. Now, if we bring up our group policy editor, management, there we go. If we bring up our group policy management, we'll have new policies. We're going to do some, oh, I got the wrong one or something. There we are. It was missing. All right, so we are going to do our workstations. So this policy is going to apply per computer. We right click, create a GPO. We'll just call it Manage Google Chrome. And of course, there's one for Firefox too, if you happen to have Firefox on your network, which I've done that here. I just have a couple things set. When we right click and edit it, and we go into, yes, computer configuration, we go to, and wrong one, policies. There we go, policies, administrative templates. Eventually, what it's doing right now is reading, this time around, it's reading from the central policy store. So it can take a little bit longer to load this up when you have a central policy store. I'm not sure why. And it could just be because my server is really slow. I have no idea. But even on my regular servers, it seems to take a little bit